Recently, the Migration Advisory Committee, MAC, just released its 2025 annual report and a special letter to the UK government. So stay with me while we break down in simple terms, in details, what MAC actually said, what the government is likely to do next, and how this affects you as a migrant. My name is Tochi, and welcome to my channel. Please like this video, give it a thumbs up as you're watching so YouTube can recommend it to more people. Kindly share it to everyone that benefit from it, and to all my returning subscribers, you guys are amazing. You're welcome back to today's video, and if you're yet to subscribe, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please click the subscribe button right now. Thank you. For some that really don't know, the Migration Advisory Committee is an independent body that just analyze stuff, do a research. In fact, they were commissioned by the government to advise the government on immigration matters, like the name implies, Migration Advisory Committee. You know, so they do research, analysis, look at facts, data and stuff, and then they advise the government. So MAC doesn't really make immigration rules, okay, the government does. But one thing I've observed so far is that the government actually pays attention to MAC. So that is why anytime MAC releases an update or a report, it's always very important that you pay attention as a migrant, because most times when they say things or make recommendations, the government is likely going to listen. So here is it. MAC's annual report is very long, right? But we'll just try our best to summarize it. Now, let's start with the biggest fear that most migrants have, right? And that is the salary threshold for a skilled worker visa, because this has been one of the biggest changes that have really affected so many people, both those on study visas trying to transition or switch to a work visa, or those trying to come into the UK, or even those trying to change employers and everything, find sponsors and all. It's really been difficult, even trying to renew visas and stuff, right? So we know that this salary threshold has just been a major source of concern for so many migrants. So MAC actually touched on it, okay? So here they advise the government to keep the £41,700 salary threshold, that the government shouldn't increase it any further, okay? Because we have seen this rise from 26,000, it made a high jump to 38,000 and now to 41,700. So a lot of people are now saying, will they increase it even more by next year? Because we understand that almost every year now, in fact, every year, there's always one change or the other, one increase or the other. So will salary threshold be increasing? MAC is now advising the government and recommending that government should not increase it anymore. They should just leave it at this, okay? So some of the reasons that they gave is that if they increase it any further, that is going to reduce migration slightly, thereby hurting the economy, because the UK system will not get the required or expected skills that they require, right? And it's also going to hurt employers who desperately need skilled workers. So you all will agree with me that a lot of employers are really struggling to meet this target. And that is why we have seen a decline in sponsorship, right? People are not sponsoring that much anymore, because yeah, you have to earn up to £41,700 for you to be able to get a skilled worker visa. So your employer has to pay you that amount of money. And a lot of employers are not paying. How many entry roles even pay up to £40,000, you get? And it's also going to affect tax contributions as well, because of course, the less people work, the less tax they pay. So MAC is just telling the government, see, you've already pushed this too far, except you want to be extreme. So just leave it at this, right? So another one that they mentioned still on the salaries is that before April 2024, right, job specific salaries were based on the 25th percentile of earning. But after April 2024, the government increased them to the 50th percentile, that is median, right? So MAC says this was too aggressive, like it was too much. The government overdid it this time around. So MAC is recommending that they return occupation-specific salaries to the 25th percentile, right? So the implication of this is that many jobs actually qualify for the skilled worker route, but the salary thresholds will not even make that possible. Like, it's making it unrealistic. That's how you notice that a lot of jobs were cut off. Like, they're just saying no. They were cut off from sponsorship, from skilled worker routes and everything. So Mark is recommending that the government just reconsiders and brings some of them back to where it was before, so that these jobs would realistically become eligible for sponsorship again. Because if you've been following the news, be following the updates, you know that so many jobs were cut off from sponsorship. Like, no, it's not eligible anymore. So Mark is just recommending that some of them should come back to where it was, so that they can still be eligible for sponsorship. This would really help migrants already working in the UK. It will also help students who are trying to switch, who are trying to get skilled worker jobs, trying to get sponsorship, because they will have more options. It will help employers as well to be able to sponsor people in these roles and all of that. So it's really a good thing if the government will consider it. So Mark also touched on new entrants, because a lot of students are suffering right now with this salary threshold. They also recommended that there should be a £33,000 salary for new entrants. You can go on the government website and check the details of what new entrants means, those that qualify, So Mark is basically recommending a single discounted salary of £33,400 for that. So Mark, tries to explain that obviously graduates do not earn £41,700 immediately. These are people that are going to be getting entry roles. Those roles don't even qualify to earn that amount of money, and it's going to help a lot of students to get jobs. Right? It's going to help the UK keep talents, keep skills, because if you lose this set of people because of the salary threshold, it's not a good thing for the economy. It's not a good thing for the country, right? So Mark is just asking government to consider this set of people, so that they'll keep more talent in the UK. People will be able to get jobs, of course, with a lower salary, lower than the £41,700 threshold, and the UK will still benefit long term from them. So Mark also recommends that the PhD salary discount should be removed, because currently there's a salary discount for PhD holders. They said that data shows that PhD holders do not earn less than others on the average. They should tell you something very important, that Mark is data driven, right? They make their recommendations based on data. They do thorough research to get this information and, make their recommendations and advice to the government, not emotions. In fact, basically by now, I'm sure we would have come to understand that the UK government, they basically work or make decisions based on results, on the data, on figures, on numbers, and not mere emotions. Mark also reviewed the health and care visas, right? They didn't really say so much about this or make major recommendations on this. They basically just emphasize that salary rules must align with real labor shortages. They also advise that governments must be careful not to exploit migrant care workers, and that government should also be careful not to make decisions or policies that would crash the care sector. Because guys, we know everything that's going on right now with the care sector. Like, it's crazy. I don't want to bore you with all of that, because I'm sure everybody already knows. So let's not just overflock it. So yeah, for the care sector, uncertainty continues, because Mark didn't really recommend so much. And he also goes a long way to show that if you're in care or you're planning to go into care in the UK, it shouldn't really be a long-term plan anymore, because there's no guarantee, nothing is guaranteed anymore in the UK. So just think about it. Mark also talked about English language and integration. So just saying how important the English language requirement is, So obviously government is even tightening that, increasing the level of English language you have to write. So Mark is just emphasizing how important the language is, and, the number of people, just, put figures of people that are not speaking English, and the level of non-English speakers in the UK. As you can see here, English language proficiency, main language, all migrants, England and Wales, and everything, people that arrived from 2020, 2021. It's just say, look at the table yourself. So people that can speak English very well, this is the percentage. People that can speak English well, that cannot speak English well, cannot speak English at all. This is the percentage. And it also puts UK settlement grants by nationality. Talking about English language, you know that you require it if you're trying to get a skilled worker visa to the UK, if you're trying to apply for settlement and all of that, you need to show proof of English, right? So they also try to show us here UK settlement grants by nationality from 2021 to 2024. So it actually shows that India has the highest number of people that have been settled in the UK. And then we have Pakistan's, people from Syria, people from Afghanistan, then Nigeria. So you see that Nigeria is not even among the first four. Then you have other ones as well. So you can actually take your time and go through this. It's quite an interesting read, really. I just try to summarize it because, guys, it's a lot. Like, so many things to read and internalize and understand. So you can actually go through it yourself. Okay, talk about English proficiency, like people that can speak English well and cannot speak English well and everything. So look at the countries. For Nigeria, it falls under people that can speak English very well. So there's also, here is also like a summary: poor English proficiency by country of birth and sex. So male and female, right? So let's just go straight to Nigeria. It says 1%, 1%. That's fair. So guys, that is it. They're just emphasizing in summary that government, you know, that yes, English language requirement is very, very important. So it's even going to get more important and probably even harder, right? Just to show proof that you can actually speak English before you can settle, before you can even come into the UK, and eventually before you can settle in the UK. So they even went as far as breaking it down according to different countries in the UK. They talked about England, Wales, Scotland. They talked about down to different cities in England as well, like share of population areas in Leicester that do not speak English very well or not at all. Share of population in Brent. Like, it's so interesting. In Boston, guys, they really emphasize like the space for English language requirements and proficiency was so long. Like, they covered a lot of things just to show proof with data, with numbers, that some people cannot speak English at all. And, you know, they try to also relate it to how English language affects integration and earnings, because obviously if you're not able to speak well, it will be hard for you to get a good job, and then you'll not earn well, you'll not contribute. So, you know, there's a lot of things. So they also talked about family visas, whether family migrants, people that come in as spouses, as dependents, whether they contribute enough to the economy and all of that. So they're just advising the government to watch family migration closely and see if they can make any adjustments to all of that. They just basically place the data and everything on the table, the numbers and all, for the government to see. So you can see from these recommendations that the UK is not planning to open the door, you know, wide open as it used to be, but at the same time they should also be careful so they don't destroy the system, because there's so many things, so many measures you put in place, and you discover that everything you have tried to build will begin to fall. So they're just trying to make the government understand these things. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I just thought to share this update with you guys so you will know exactly what's going on. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section, okay? And I must also say before I go that this is not an immigration advice. This is strictly for information purpose. If you need an expert advice or opinion, do well to get one, because this does not replace it. So yeah, thank you so much guys. I'll see you all in my next one. Bye bye.